We bade farewell to 2019 amidst pomp and fanfare. We welcomed 2020 with festivity and high expectations. Most made their resolutions and plans for the year ahead. As the old adage says, to fail to plan is to plan to fail. Months later, the plug was pulled. Everything went to a standstill. COVID-19, which we had only heard of in the tabloids, had landed on our doorstep. COVID had arrived in Africa. This led to countries going into lockdown. Everything else, like dominoes, followed suit. Every sector was literally locked down, as in a prison cell. The lockdown affected most organizations and sectors of the economy. On entertainment, by March 2020, across the world, most cultural institutions had been indefinitely closed, or at least had their services radically curtailed, with exhibitions, events, and performances cancelled or postponed. Many individuals across the sector would temporarily or permanently lose contracts or employment, with varying degrees of warning and financial assistance available. Equally, financial stimulus for governments and charities for artists would provide greatly differing levels of support depending on the sector in the country. The public demand for cultural activities was expected to return, but at an unknown time, and with the assumption that different kinds of experiences would be popular. Due to additional risks of spreading the virus linked to choir rehearsals and the playing of wind musical instruments, trumpets, trombones, flutes, and so on, extra precautions are advised for groups involved in these. Practice, teaching, and performance should be outdoors if possible, and with strict adherence to 2-meter physical distancing advice. Additional protective measures such as screens, instrument covers, and face coverings may be used to help reduce the risk further for those taking part in these activities. Due to the closures, revenues for cultural organizations reliant on ticket sales were expected to cause devastating effects upon revenues. For example, during closure, the average reported weekly revenue loss in the European museum sector was 80%. This consequently directly affected organizational staffing and on independent artists and professionals due to the fact that the arts and culture is a sector of national economies characterized by particularly a high proportion of temporary contracts and self-employment.
My name is LMP. I'm a recording artist from Zambia, Copperbelt, but currently based in China. I do music, I do hip-hop, Afro, and all kinds of genres, Coronavirus. We've been deeply affected by that. Like, we usually get to have shows like 3 to 4 shows in a month, but since coronavirus started, we haven't done like anything. It's just home, sleeping and resting. The income is not so good at the moment, and we just hope and pray that it passes and everything gets better. So
we are very much affected. Like, since this coronavirus came, people are no longer working the way they used to work, and even the money that they get, there's some people that used to go for my piece works, they are not going anymore because some companies are closed. So even in the entertainment industry, in the industry at large, a lot of musicians are affected. They no longer have shows, even features like to go to the studio now, because people, they have to stay home.
One of my streams of income is providing pro audio equipment for events, social gatherings, weddings, kitchen parties, birthday parties, corporate events. And I would say since the inception of the COVID-19 pandemic and the restrictions thereby that have been placed, I would say we've largely lost out as people in the entertainment industry, because of the restrictions on social gatherings. Less people are gathering. Some don't even want to gather at all. So that means less business on our end. Not that many people want to work with the restrictions of 50 people plus. The 50 people max numbers on certain social gatherings and whatnot. So really, we haven't had that many outings this year. So we have, like any other industry during this pandemic, we've suffered.
On education, the COVID-19 has affected the educational system worldwide, leading to the closure of schools and universities to prevent the spread of the virus among students. This affected many teachers because they are no longer receiving salaries. The children themselves have been affected since they are behind in their syllabuses and their learnings.
In this lockdown, a lot of things have been affected education-wise. Like, we can't have our offline classes, schools cannot open, we have to continue with online classes, and we can't have our laboratory classes as well. They have to be postponed until next semester.
Yeah. I'm a Form 3 student. COVID-19 has affected us because we've lost 4 months and it is a whole term. I don't know if we'll be able to catch up. And I also miss chatting with my peers at school.
The COVID-19 pandemic had a significant impact on tourism industry due to the resulting travel restrictions as well as a slump in the demand amongst travelers. The tourist industry has been massively affected by the spread of coronavirus, as many countries have introduced travel restrictions in an attempt to contain its spread. The United Nations World Tourism Organizations estimated the global international tourist arrivals might decrease by 20 to 30% in 2030, leading to a potential loss of $3,050 billion. In many of the world's cities, planned travel went down by 80 to 90%. Many tourist attractions around the world, such as museums, amusement parks, and sports venues, were closed. The tourism sector has also suffered as a result of the pandemic. Many countries and regions have imposed quarantine, entry bans, or other restrictions for citizens of or recent travelers to the most affected areas.
Severe Innocent is my name, and I'm an accountant for national parks and wildlife. And then Chembe has been affected, but not that much affected, because we still receive some tourists, but not to the extent at which we receive tourists during the normal times. So it has been affected in the sense that usually it's supposed to have a packed. It's supposed to be packed during weekends, but usually we only have maybe 10 to 20 people. Sometimes even 0 the whole week. Unlike before, where I would have maybe on a daily basis, maybe 3-4 people, 10 people on a daily basis. But now only expect people during the weekend. That's how COVID has affected this place, Chembene Beach Sanctuary, which has got a status of a national park.
The sporting sector was not spared either. The sportsmen are no longer going for the trainings due to the lockdown. The people no longer go and watch sport, which is very hard for them to survive economically. Some sports fans complained that it was their sole source of socialization. Now they are locked down at home with nothing to do, and They cannot even see their friends to socialize.
COVID-19 yakakanganisa sport. Nekuti kusport ndo kwatakanga tichitandara nehama neshamwari. Saka izvezvi nekuda kweCovid tiri kulockdown, tinoswera tiri kudzimba.
The religious sector cannot be ignored, as it has long, since time immemorial, been a source of social and emotional strengthening.
Before coronavirus,
The COVID-19
we used to
pandemic
have
has
congregational
impacted religion
prayers
in various ways,
that we normally
including the
have
cancellation
we
of worship
normally
services.
2-5 times per day. But with coming of coronavirus, people are no longer attending those congregational prayers. They attend at home, they pray at home, and some don't pray at all. So it's like a big loss to us. And the second thing is that our children, we send our children to madrasa, Islamic schools, afternoon or any other time. So from Monday to Saturday. So with coming of coronavirus, those children who used to go to madrasa, to Islamic schools, they no longer attend the classes because of the fear they have, the fear of coronavirus.
I'm Tunia Jusap. I am a lab technician by profession. A year experience. It has affected us in the sense that it has put our lives on a risk more than anyone else. In the sense of saying that when someone gets sick, he or she runs to the hospital. The hospital is the first place where someone thinks of when you feel some things in your body. So it has affected us, that it has put our life on risk and the life of our loved ones, because social distancing cannot work with treating the patient. I mean, how can you distance yourself 1 meter apart when you want to help a patient?
Other countries and regions have imposed global restrictions that apply to all foreign countries and territories or prevent their own citizens from traveling overseas. Together with a decreased willingness to travel, the restrictions have had a negative economic impact on the travel sector in those regions. A possible long-term impact has been a decline of business travel and international conferencing and the rise of the virtual online equivalents. Concerns have been raised over the effectiveness of travel restrictions to contain the spread of COVID-19.